Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Francis, and I'm going to discuss the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment reads a well regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. Implemented in 1791. Today, many refer to the Second Amendment as the gun law. This may be the common issue today, but this was not always the main focus of the amendment, and it is important that individuals understand the origins of the law. Historically, the Second Amendment has English influence. It was an English practice not to have a standing army. This tradition was passed on to English colonists. And in the past, the English had often seen oppression enforced across countries using an army. Therefore, this was avoided. Commonly, there was no standing army, military national guard, and many groups in place today, which we are accustomed to, which are designed to ensure the safety of the nation and its citizens. It was generally up to the men of society to bear arms and to become the army when the kingdom or the nation was in trouble. As well, the American colonies did not desire a standing army during times of peace, especially during times of peace. Um, the right to bear arms was enforced for citizens who needed to protect themselves, their families, to fight against everyday criminals, against altercations with Native Americans, and possibly to even discourage slave rebellions. America had become a nation who was very conscious about corrupt governments, especially after dealing with the injustice of the British government. And in result, anti Federalists were at first strongly opposed to the idea of the Constitution. And the Constitution was only possible with the Bill of Rights becoming a part of it. And the Bill of Rights contained laws such as the Second Amendment, which were enforced to stop federal repression from occurring again. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are even written to protect citizens from America's government itself if it was to become unjust. Give the people It would give the people the right to overthrow the American government. There has been a divide on the law of the Second Amendment. There is a common debate of the interpretation of the amendment. It is questioned whether only militia types groups should have the right to bear arms, or should this individual right be given to the people as well. There have been several court cases on the issue, and prior to 2008, it seemed that the direction of the debate was leading towards lack of enforcement of individual rights to bear arms, and that stronger regulations would be enforced in this area. I will briefly go over the court cases, and it is important to recognize the changes over time. United States versus Cruikshank, 1876. The right to bear arms is not granted by the Constitution, which limited the applicability of the Second Amendment to the federal government. United States versus Miller, 1939, the Supreme Court ruled that the federal government and the states could limit any weapon types not having a reasonable relationship to the preservation or efficiency of a well-regulated militia. District of Columbia versus Heller. Now, this is the turning point of these events. Is a very important case. In 2008, after many years, the amendment was reawakened, and it was ruled that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to possess and carry firearms. McDonald versus Chicago, 2010. The court clarified its earlier decisions, holding that the 14th Amendment applies to the Second Amendment applies the Second Amendment to the state and local government to the same extent that the Second Amendment applies to the federal government. So this is completely opposite of where we started from in the beginning. Catano versus Massachusetts, 2016, the Supreme Court ruled that the Second Amendment applies to all instruments that constitute bearable arms, even those that were not even in existence at the time of the founding, and that its protection is not limited to only those weapons useful in warfare. These laws are in regards to the rights of citizens to bear arms at their home. The Second Amendment can still be lawfully regulated in several other areas in regards to felons, the mentally ill, public places, and so forth. In the news, we commonly see the right to bear arms strongly supported by organizations such as the NRA. A concern regarding regulations of the Second Amendment have greatly developed based on the increase of gun violence and acts of terror in the United States. Major events which have caused citizens to to question regulations are such as the Columbine shootings or the Virginia Tech shooting, Sandy Hook Elementary, the Colorado movie theater shooting, and most recently the Florida nightclub shooting, and the list continues. And vice versa, those strongly in support of the right for individuals to bear arms say that these events encourage the need for citizens to have guns and could prevent occurrences like this from happening again. It'll be interesting to read about your interpretations of the Second Amendment. Thank you.